everybody, welcome to today's presentation of our Dynasty Spotlight Series. My name is Jonathan. I'm one of the commissioners here at Masters Fantasy Leagues, joined by two of our draft coordinators, two guys I always give a call when I need a little bit of fantasy help or advice, especially when it comes to college guys. Right before we jump into it, just wanted to let you know here at Masters, we do have over 600 Dynasty Leagues. We've never folded a single one. If you're looking for a place to play, don't have to worry about your league going anywhere, this is the place to play. Today's prospect, a really interesting one. We're going to be talking about Devonta Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. Just the tape, I have him at 6'1", 175 pounds. Want to throw that out there first. Let's jump right into it. How good of a prospect is Devonta Smith, and what current or past NFL player would you compare him to?
Right, so Devonta Smith, I mean, if you didn't know who he was before this year because of all the other talent they have, you know who he is now. Devonta Smith is an absolute playmaker. There's pretty much nothing he can't do for your football team. And the one thing that really sticks out to me is just the weight is probably the thing that people will notice right away, because he looks really thin out there. And despite that, he still finds a way to be physical. He's very... It's a weird kind of style he has where he's not super fast, but he pulls away from guys and creates space with his good route running and technique and things of that nature. And he's just all around a really good prospect. And I know some people are even saying he could push Chase for that #1 spot just with how good he's been this year. I don't necessarily agree, but I think it's to be talked about because Devonta Smith he's that legit. He's that good. He's an incredible playmaker.
Yeah, I think the doc really hit all the key points there. I think his description fit him perfectly and kind of sets me up for my pro player comparison to him. And that's a young Stephon Diggs. I think he needs to add a little bit of weight to get to where Diggs is at now. But Diggs was a little thin coming out of college and has really grown into the player he is today. But yeah, Devonta Smith is a special talent, runs great routes. He's physical too at the catch point. For a light, a guy who weighs lighter, he goes up there and gets it and fights through contact. An exciting prospect to watch. I think he's got a bright future and is definitely a name to watch.
Yeah, great stuff. And when I wrote that down, 175 pounds, a little worrisome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting in the combine. The weights are tricky, but he does look thin, which is a little scary. But
right, well, he'll get in the NFL and they'll bulk him up
for sure.
In that weight room.
I feel like even Diggs, who's kind of my pro player comp, I feel like Diggs has really thickened out, throughout the last 4 years. So
yeah, and won a bunch of guys some money yesterday too.
Lost me some, but that's all right. Yeah.
And I wrote down his stats, which really stood out for me too. 98 catches, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns. Also rushed for one, got a punt return.
Yeah, that LSU game was phenomenal.
Seems like he's a weapon on the field everywhere.
Yeah.
And some other stuff I wrote down is going to be the first wide receiver to win the AP Player of the Year. Thought that was really neat. The only Heisman Trophy candidate, not a quarterback this year. And actually Reddy has a pretty good, people say he has a shot to win.
Yeah.
And if he did to be the first wide receiver since Desmond Howard, I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, going to move on to the next question here. Possible NFL destinations. What teams you guys possibly think could draft them, and maybe your best case scenario for them too.
Right, and I know we've kind of brought this up a little bit too, but I could see like a team like Miami where Tua, he's struggled. Plain and simple, he's been struggling a little bit, and I think that would give him a little level of comfort. And Devonta Smith gives them something that I don't really know they have. Somebody that's got that combination of skills would be a good addition for them, and I think the comfort with Tua, he'd be really good from the start.
Yeah, and right before you go, I had a question, because you said you were leaning Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
But if he landed in a better spot than Jamar Chase?
It's tough for me just because, just think in general of Devonta Smith, there's talk of him maybe being the #1 receiver, and that's after like a year that might net him a Heisman Trophy, which no receiver's been able to do. And even with all that, I still have him behind Jamar Chase. I feel that highly about Jamar Chase, and I think, especially seeing guys like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb just shine, regardless of being the #1 receiver not there, I think that makes me have Chase #1 no matter what, unless he goes to a quarterback I really, really don't like.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so in terms of landing spots, not saying this would be the best spot from a fantasy perspective, but I really feel like Detroit is an interesting spot. Kenny Galladay's contract is not extended yet, so there's some question there. Also, just outside of Galladay, they could definitely use a young #2. And there's questions whether how long Matthew Stafford will stick around. But I think it'd be a really exciting pairing while Stafford's still there. but obviously they could look to go in another direction in the near future at quarterback, which could be an opportunity though, if they replace Stafford maybe next offseason to get in with a young quarterback then. But yeah, Detroit's probably looking to pick like around the 8th pick, so
Right.
I mean he could get picked that high, and it was just one of the destinations that stuck out to me as a real possibility.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Actually, CBS came out with a mock draft today. They had him going round 1, pick 6 to Philly. Another great spot would be for him, but certainly if he slips down to 8, I could see him in Detroit too. Going to move on to my favorite part of the show. We're going to talk some draft stock. Upcoming rookie free agent. Upcoming dynasty drafts. Where do you guys see him going?
I think middle of the first round, and it could be even higher depending on situation. But yeah, probably like that 3 to 5 range seems to be the sweet spot for me, just because I think he's been that good this year. But there is a ton of talent in this draft, so I wouldn't be surprised either way. That might even be a bigger range.
Is there any scenario that you see him going 1.1?
It's tough at this point. I don't think so, but I think definitely early to mid first, that 3 to 5 range, like Ryan said. I think that's kind of spot on where I think as well.
Gotcha. All right, good stuff, guys. Dynasty Football Outlook. We're talking everything Dynasty Football here, so obviously we want to know how long this guy's going to be around for. 3 to 5 year window. You guys still think we'll be talking about Devonta Smith?
I absolutely do, and kind of like my Stephon Diggs comparison, I almost feel like he'll be better 3 to 5. I mean, naturally just going to grow as a player, but I feel like that could really be his coming out party 3 to 5 years from now. Then, for the next 5 years after that, he's really at, the top of his game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think some of the concerns about him right now will be alleviated by then. So.
Right. All right, and then the last question here. Just a current wide receiver in the NFL that you'd pull the trigger for and trade him for right now, without even knowing where he's going.
You know what? I kind of want to say somebody like, I want to say Jerry Jeudy, which is funny.
I like that actually. Yeah.
It's similar situation. Jeudy was the the big man on campus just not that long ago, and he's another one that struggled. I think his situation might get worse as we talked about all offseason with Cortland Sutton being there. I think that's someone you could get pretty decent value for. You could get Devonta Smith, who, I don't know. Yeah, I think he's got more upside at this point. Judy's been a little bit of a disappointment. So I think I might pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, and I actually want to hit like a hot take alert button. I think if you're sitting on Jerry Jeudy, I think very possibly you could trade him for the 1.5, 1.6 pick next year. I think some guys still believe in him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and to be fair, if I had him, I probably wouldn't trade him unless it'd be pretty tough to do, just because it's only been one season. But
right, and I do have him, and I see he was. Squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
They shot him all them balls this week.
Yeah,
He had
5
drops.
targets or something.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff, guys. That's going to wrap up this edition of our Dynasty Spotlight. Thank you so much for listening. If you could, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also in the comments, if there's anybody you want me to ask these guys, anybody in college you want us to put on our Spotlight series, we'd love to do it for you. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.